A very good evening and welcome to all the doctors who are present here to the general body meeting of Indian Medical Association Chatanur branch. Today we are going to have a CME session on endometrial cancer, just beat it. It is my privilege to welcome our speaker, Dr. Anita J. Shah ma'am. Ma'am is MD, DGO, CIMP. She's the Secretary General of IMS. She's ex-president of Surat Obs and Gynae Society. Ma'am is also ex-secretary of Surat Medical Consultation Association and she's a member of IMA. Thank you so much, ma'am, for giving your valuable time. If you're ready, you can start the discussion, ma'am.
Yeah. Should I share my screen?
Yes, ma'am, please. Completely fine.
Yeah. So first of all, good evening to all the lovely members of Indian Menopause Society, Chatanur branch. I am heartily thankful to Dr. Anil, Dr. Manoj and Dr. Manjesh for inviting me over here for this academic session. I am very much thankful to Clarinet for giving me this opportunity to discuss regarding the very burning issue of cancer. One of them is endometrial cancer. So without wasting time, let us go to the today's discussion. Friends, all of you are aware that in female, 4 cancers are common. One is cervical cancer, breast cancer, endometrial cancer, and ovarian cancer. All of these cancers usually occur after the age of 40. In our lay public, most of the time, cancer means they are feeling that cancel. But as a medical health provider, we have to explain our patients and we have to make them convinced that not all the cancers are leading to death. If proper screening and proper early detection is done, then today in the era of science and technology, we can save the life to all the patients, most of them. So today I'll discuss regarding the endometrial cancer. Endometrial cancer is the 4th most common cancer in women in US. Just a minute. I'll just most common gynecological malignancy. It is the 8th leading cause of female mortality from cancer. Carcinoma endometrium is the most common gynecological cancer in developed countries with an age standardized incidence rate of 8.4% per 1 lakh women. In developing countries, cervical cancer still remains the leading gynecological cancer, but recently there has been an increase in the incidence of endometrial cancer even in developing countries too. In India, the total number of estimated new cases of endometrial cancer in 2018 is 13,328 with an estimated 5,010 deaths. The 8th standardized incidence rate of endometrial cancer in India is 2.3 per 1 lakh women. The rise in endometrial cancer in India is mainly attributed to changing trends in the lifestyle and reproductive profile of women, especially in urban areas. The majority of cases present in the 6th and 7th decades of life, with the mean age being 60 years at the time of diagnosis. 97% arise from the endometrium, that is endometrial carcinoma, and 3% arise from the mesenchymal component that we call as sarcoma. Looking to the epidemiology, Median age of diagnosis of endometrial cancer is 60 years, most common in women more than age 50 years. The incidence is highly dependent on age. 75% of uterine cancers occur in postmenopausal women. There are two major pathogenic types of endometrial cancer, type 1 and type 2. In type 1 endometrial carcinoma, usually younger perimenopausal women are involved. Most of them are obese, associated with estrogen excess, well-differentiated endometrioid carcinoma. There is superficial myometrial invasion, infrequent lymph node metastasis, associated with hyperplasia, genetic mutation in KRAS and PTN is there. And usually in type 1 endometrial carcinoma, the prognosis is always better. In type 2 endometrial carcinoma, it is usually occurring in older postmenopausal women. They may be usually thin, poorly differentiated carcinoma. Mostly they are papillary serous and clear cell carcinomas. There is deep myometrial invasion, frequent lymph node metastasis associated with atrophy. Genetic mutation is there, and it is usually not associated with typical risk factors. Now, what are the risk factors? If we look into the risk factors for endometrial carcinoma, the exposure to estrogen is the key risk factor for endometrial carcinoma. Risk is increased with dose and time of exposed estrogen. The estrogen exposure may be endogenous or may be exogenous. Endogenous in case of morbid obesity, polycystic ovarian syndrome, and oligomenorrhea, where there is excess estrogen in the body. While in case of exogenous estrogen, there may be due to the hormonal replacement therapy with estrogen without additional progestin, or use of tamoxifen, usually in case of breast carcinoma as a treatment, which is the estrogen agonist for the endometrium. If we consider the risk factors, it is found that when the weight is more than 21 to 50 pounds, there is 3 times higher incidence of endometrial carcinoma. If the weight is more than 50 pounds, then there are 10 times more risk for endometrial carcinoma. Nulliparity, the incidence is increased to 2 times. Late menopause and early menarche, there is incidence of increased by 2.5 times. Diabetes, hypertension, hypothyroidism, they are also associated with endometrial cancer. Familial syndromes like Lynch syndrome or HNPCC, that is hereditary non-polyposis colorectal cancers, which are caused by inherited germline mutation, and Cowden syndrome, they are also found in case of endometrial carcinomas. Just like cervical cancer screening, when we do it by pap test, or for breast cancer screening, which we usually do by mammography, there is no particular screening process for endometrial cancer. There is no routine screening. So we have to inform the patients that there may be average or increased rise about the signs and symptoms. Screen based on presence of symptoms is only there. If Lynch syndrome is there, then usually we advise for the endometrial biopsy at the age of 35. What are the signs and symptoms for endometrial carcinoma? Usually bleeding will be the most common symptom. It is present in 90% of all the cases. 15% of the patients with postmenopausal bleeding will have endometrial carcinoma. It is found by the study. Other signs and symptoms may include vaginal discharge that may be present in 80 to 90% of the patients, pelvic pain, pressure symptoms, referred leg pain, change in bowel habits, polymetrial or hematomatrosis that may be there. How to diagnose endometrial cancer? Usually in case of cervical cancer, we usually do screening by Pap test. Pap smear is only 30 to 50% patients with cancer will have an abnormal findings. Endometrial biopsy, there are also false negative rate of 5 to 10%. Transvaginal ultrasonography, it is not for routine screening or diagnosis. Suspicious findings include endometrial stripe more than 5 millimeter, polypoid mass, or fluid collection in uterus. So gold standard method for diagnosis of endometrial cancer is the fractional dilatation and curettage. It is used in cases of cervical stenosis when patient is intolerant for examination, recurrent bleeding after negative biopsy, or bleeding after unexplained by endometrial biopsy results. Sample from endocervix and endometrium are taken. There are chances of false negative in 2 to 6%. Usually in today's scenario, hysteroscopy is added to identify non-malignant causes of bleeding, and after doing hysteroscopy, usually fractional dilatation and curettage is helpful for finding out the endometrial cancer. If we look at the endometrial histopathological examination, there may be hyperplasia. It may be simple or complex. Suppose how we can find out the progression to cancer. In case of simple hyperplasia with no atypia, the chances of progression to endometrial cancer is only 1.3%, while if there is a complex hyperplasia with no atypia, the chances of cervical cancer, endometrial cancer is only 3%. Similarly, if there is hyperplasia with atypia, simple hyperplasia with atypia, then the chances for progression to cancer is 8%, while in case of complex atypia, the chances are 29%. So significant percentage of complex hyperplasia with atypia will coexisting of adenocarcinoma too. Now, regarding the management of hyperplasia, if there is no atypia, no treatment is needed, or you can give continuous progesterone or re-examination if bleeding occurs afterwards. For giving progestin, we have so many options. You can use medroxyprogesterone 10 milligram per day, norethindrone 2.5 milligram, Magestrol can also be used 160 milligram per day. Oral contraceptive pills also can be given to control, and levonorgestrel intrauterine device, that is Mirena, it is also can be used. But if there is hyperplasia with atypia, then hysterectomy should be done. If poor surgical candidate or patient desires for fertility sparing, then continuous high dose of progestin can be given. Levonorgestrel intrauterine device can be utilized. Re-examination of the patient should be done every 3 months, and response to hormone, usually it is there in 50 to 75% of the patients. If we do the histopathology examination of the endometrial carcinoma, in 80% of the endometrial carcinoma, it is endometrioid. Only 5 to 7% there will be papillary serous endometrial carcinoma. In 5% there may be mucinous. In case of 3% there may be clear cell carcinoma. In 2% there may be viloglandular. 1% only there may be secretory only endometrial will be fine. And in very rare cases there may be pure squamous epithelium will be seen. So if we consider the important histology points, The papillary serous carcinoma are aggressive. Even when mixed with other types, if there is more than 25% of secretory endometrium, will retain aggressive behavior. Clear cell carcinoma acts similar to high-grade endometrioid type of carcinoma, while mucinous carcinomas act similar to well-differentiated endometrial type carcinoma, and squamous carcinoma have a very, very poor prognosis. If we consider the grading of endometrial carcinoma, the grade is based on the percentage of component well differentiated. It is considered as grade 1. It is only found in 5% of the cases. Moderately differentiated, grade 2, that is usually found in 5 to 50% of the cases, while poorly differentiated is grade 3. Most of the endometrial cancers are poorly differentiated endometrial carcinoma. There are synchronization of endometrial cancer with ovarian cancer. Incidence of 1.5 to 3.8% is there. Both tumors are typically well-differentiated cancers. Good prognosis because ovarian tumor is found at an early stage. Otherwise, you all know very well that ovarian cancer is so notorious that usually it is found in a very, very late stage, because people have very vague symptoms and they will consider that that may be some intestinal problem, or there may be some weight gain, and due to that only the bulging of their abdomen or fullness of abdomen is there. So if we are diagnosing endometrial cancer and along with that ovarian cancer is there, the prognosis will be better, because here the ovarian tumor is also found in a very early stage. 30% of the patients with endometrioid ovarian cancer will have associated endometrial cancer. 15 to 20% of the patients with granulosa cell tumors will have associated endometrial cancer. Now, how to treat the endometrial cancer? As in all the cases, before treating any patient of any cancer, pre-treatment evaluation is a must. Similarly, here also, proper history taking should be done. Physical examination should be done. Routine laboratory testing, CBC with blood chemistry should be done. Liver function test should be done. CA-125 is also done. It has useful in advanced disease. Radiology, chest X-ray should be done. MRI, ultrasound is not reliable for the invasion, and all other studies are ordered according to the symptoms associated to the patient. Now, coming to the endometrial cancer treatment, surgery is the mainstay of the treatment, followed by adjuvant radiation and or chemotherapy based on the stages of the disease. Primary radiotherapy or hormonal therapy may be employed in patients who have contraindications to surgery. Primary radiation therapy, if we consider, only 3 to 5% of the patients who cannot withstand surgery. They may be very elderly patients, obese patients with multiple medical comorbidities. In those cases, usually primary radiation therapy is given. Excellent survival and local survival rate. 5-year disease-specific survival is also good. Hormone therapy. Appropriate in patients that desire fertility preservation, means young patients who are having endometrial carcinoma and well-differentiated cancer in them, hormone therapy can be given. Approximately 75% response rate is there. 25% recurrence at a median of 19 months may be there. High dose progestins can be given as an hormone therapy, but it is only useful for grade 1 tumors only. If the disease is further involved or progression, then they don't have much effect. Surgical treatment, as we always know that proper exploration of the abdomen is a must. Simple hysterectomy is the main treatment. Radical is necessary if suspected cervical involvement is there. Bilateral salpingo-oophorectomy should always be done. Pelvic washings is done, and lymphadenectomy of pelvic as well as parietic lymph nodes should be done. And as and when required, omentectomy is also done. We all know regarding the various staging of endometrial carcinoma. According to the stage, the proper treatment should be done. Now, if we look at the risk of lymph node metastasis, if the disease is grade 1, then only 3% lymph node metastasis will be there. In case of in grade 3, 18% involvement of the lymph node metastasis is found. Myometrial invasion, it may be none or superficial. Then lymph node metastasis will be only less than 5%. If half of the myometrium is involved, then there is the risk of 20% lymph node metastasis. Cervical involvement is there, then 15% chances of lymph node metastasis is found. Routine lymphadenectomy. There is no clear evidence of impact of routine lymphadenectomy on survival. Retrospective studies have shown a survival benefit from lymphadenectomy. However, recent randomized control trial to show this benefit. Benefit may be directly related to appropriate surgical staging and treatment planning. So, whether laparoscopic staging should be done or it should be done on laparotomy. There was one GOG Lap 2 trial, randomized control trial was done of laparoscopy versus laparotomy for endometrial cancer staging. Here 2,616 stage 1 and 2A patients were enrolled, and data suggests that laparoscopic surgical staging is feasible for patients. 23% conversion to laparotomy. Equivalent complications are there, a longer operative time in laparoscopic group of the patients, while long-term results of progression-free and overall survival rate is similar. So it can be done with laparotomy or laparoscopy. Nowadays, it is the era of laparoscopy, so our most of the young generation to the survival rate according to the surgical stage. If the disease in stage 1, the 3-year survival rate is 93%, very high, very good survival rate is there, and even 5% survival rate is 90%. In case of stage 2, it is 84% and 78%, while in stage 3, it is 70% and 62%, while stage 4, the survival rate is very less. In 3-year survival rate is only 30%, while 5-year survival rate is only 21%. Now, looking to the prognostic factors. So, stage is the most significant predictor of survival. Lymph node metastasis is the most important prognostic factor in clinically early endometrial cancer. Suppose lymph node metastasis is there, then reduction in 5-year survival rate is very high, that is 40%. If papillary serous or clear cell histological type of endometrial cancer is there, then reduction in 5-year survival rate is 40 to 60%. While if there is high-grade endometrioid histology type of endometrial cancer, the reduction in 5-year survival rate is 25%. If deep myometrial invasion is there, then there is 30% reduction in 5-year survival rate. Suppose tumor size is filling entire uterine cavity, then the reduction in 5-year survival rate is very high, 30%. While if the tumor size is only more than 2 centimeters, then the reduction in 5-year survival rate is 10%. Lymphovascular space invasion is there, then the reduction in 5-year survival rate is 20%, while if there is adnexal involvement alone, then reduction in 5-year survival rate is only 5%. Looking to the adjuvant therapy along with the surgical management, observation is a must, because you have to keep proper watch to the patient. You have to explain the patient everything regarding whatever treatment we have given and radiation given. External pelvic radiation is also given if necessary. Extended field pelvic or para-aortic radiation is also given sometimes. Hormonal therapy or chemotherapy if needed can be given in case if the endometrial cancer is found only in stage 1A, there is excellent prognosis and no further treatment is needed. If adjuvant radiation therapy is given, it reduces the risk of recurrence. There is no impact on overall survival. Vaginal brachytherapy or has intermediate risk tumors. External beam radiation therapy can be given in case of high risk tumors. How to follow this type of patients? Usually first 2 years, 3 to 4 monthly patient should be followed. Every 6 months until 5 years follow-up should be advised to the patient. During each visit, pelvic examination should be done, annually examined. What about the recurrence of endometrial carcinoma? 50% recurrence occur within 2 years of treatment. Most common site of recurrence is vaginal or pelvic. Most common sites of extrapelvic metastasis are lungs. Isolated vaginal recurrence has the best prognosis, and estrogen progesterone receptor dependent hormonal therapy will give the best result. Chemotherapy options is given when metastatic disease is there. Looking to the other type of endometrial cancer, of course, it is very less. That is uterine sarcoma. 3% of all uterine cancers are uterine sarcoma. Endometrial cancer occurs with sarcoma. There are tumors. Carcinosarcoma postmenopausal women, and the median age is considered 62 years, associated with diabetes, hypertension, and obesity. Increased in African American women. 7 to 37% of the patients have prior pelvic irradiation. In case of carcinosarcoma, survival, the prognosis is poor. 2-year survival stage is stage 1 disease is only 50%, while stage 2 disease is only 10%. Extrauterine involvement is there, then 40 to 60% survival rate is only at the time of diagnosis. If we look at the leiomyosarcoma, it is mitotic count may be more than 10 mitosis per HPF. Cellular atypia is found. and coagulative necrosis is very common. Median age is usually 52 years. Premenopausal have a better prognosis. Leiomyomata, sarcomatas rate of 0.13% only, and the survival rate is from 20 to 63%. Treatment for sarcoma is mainly surgery. Stage 1 and 2 sarcomas should be treated with hysterectomy. Lymphadenectomy is indicated in all the sarcomas except leiomyosarcomas. Bilateral salpingo-oophorectomy, not necessary in premenopausal women, but in case of postmenopausal women, it can be done. With radiation therapy results in lower pelvic recurrence rate. The use of radiation in leiomyosarcoma does not impact recurrence, progression-free, or overall survival. In case of recurrence, if recurrent carcinosarcoma is there, then paclitaxel or platinum or ifosfamide can be given. Recurrent leiomyosarcoma, that can be also treated with doxorubicin, ifosfamide, and other drugs. So friends, this was in a nutshell about the endometrial carcinoma. Friends, here I would like to advise you in such a routine making screening for each and every woman after the age of 35. As you all know that these all female cancers usually occur after the age of 40. So as a routine, whenever you are having your patients are coming to you for any other illness, if they are women, you should always advise them that after the age of 35, they should consult their gynecologist every year. Just we celebrate our birthdays and anniversary, they should make the habit of getting consulted by gynecologist after the age of 35. Usually, when you go to the gynecologist, usually we do clinical examination from which we can find out any lesion on the vagina, cervix, any polyp, any erosion, any growth that can be detected. We usually advise pap smear. Previously, we were doing conventional pap test cytology, which can be repeated every 3 years. That your patient to get stopped. Patient is menstruating, then immediately after the completion of that period, or in perimenopausal age group after menopause, it can be done at any time. Usually doing sonography, the size, there is any fibroid or any other growth or any adenomyosis that can be detected very easily. Simultaneously, in case of abnormal uterine bleeding, especially in the postmenopausal women, then we usually find out the endometrial thickness and high future chances of any endometrial abnormality or endometrial cancer. Similarly, by doing sonography, ovarian status is also found out. And of course, after the age of 40, you should advise each and every patient to get their mammography also done. It should be repeated if normal, 2 yearly or later on like that. So usually you should take the opportunity to discuss all this to your female patients whenever they are coming to you for any illnesses. Maybe they come for fever or they may come for your menstrual problems. Then you should, because family physicians are the most important doctors in of patient. They always believe and they always follow, treat them better way and the survival of the patients are there. So this is in nutshell for the endometrial cancer and other cancer screening.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am, for this wonderful discussion.